Rushworth. Welcome to the Hey Lover mini-series on the Hey Sunshine podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. This is my first official podcast back for the year, so I'm finding my groove, but feeling good.
Well done.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels really good. So I thought we would start off today with your rapid fire speed dating. So I feel like most dates should start like this. It's like you get to really know someone. So I'm going to just rapid fire and then answer as you wish. So where did you grow up?
Perth, Western Australia.
Lovely. And you obviously live in Spain now.
Yeah, I live in Mallorca.
Oh, so nice. What is your human design?
I am a mental projector, 3/5. It's pretty much almost like a reflector, to be honest. All open centers except the top of my head.
Crazy. Yeah. I'm a 3/5 as well. So I feel like there's a lot of 3/5s who listen to this podcast too as well. So we understand.
Oh, good.
What is your love language?
Oh, I was thinking about this the other day. I feel like it does the musical chairs like every couple of years or so.
100%.
But the last time I checked, it was like a tie between words of affirmation and quality time.
Nice. Very nice. And what about your attachment style?
I'm secure now, but I used to be very avoidant, maybe anxious avoidant, but I didn't know about attachment theory back when I was in my deep healing season.
Yeah, 100%. And so what's one word to describe your old dating life?
Chaotic.
Yeah.
Chaotic.
Yeah, totally. And what's a word to describe your current relationship?
I can't choose one word.
I know, it's too good.
I would say home.
Home. Oh, I forgot one in here. I'll be interested if you know this. What is your erotic blueprint?
Oh, do you know what? It's one of those things I keep meaning to look up and I haven't looked it up. So sorry to disappoint. Yeah.
No, my partner and I just finished the course. So it was very fascinating. I always thought I was kinky and I was like, I'm kinky. And then anyway, I got sensual. I'm like, I'm not sensual. I'm like, that's bullshit. Anyway, I am sensual.
Yeah.
So what do you wish more people spoke about?
I think the patience that it takes to heal when you're healing some really deep-rooted stuff. I think in our industry or in the self-help industry and the spiritual industry in general, there's a lot of, rhetoric around you can heal this in this amount of weeks. And I think that there's so many amazing tools that can totally support you. And you might have quick breakthroughs with some of those modalities. But I think when you're healing a lifetime of wounds, trauma, ancestral, patterns, all the maybe crazy shit that's happened to you that makes you how you are and how you behave. It takes time because those wounds took time to imprint upon you, and so I think patience is such a virtue and it's really underrated. And I don't think that many people really speak to that because it doesn't sell as quickly as I guess.
A quick fix.
Yeah,
100%.
Totally.
Yeah, I know everyone's just looking for that pill to take just to solve all their issues. And yeah, I think patience is definitely needed. So what's the worst dating advice you've ever received?
Oh, I mean, gosh,
so many.
There's so many. Yeah. And, even I sometimes get these Facebook ads. I don't know why I'm being targeted because I've been married for years, but for dating coaches, and they're talking about, how to make a man chase you and, play games and do this so that he likes you, so that he calls you or text him this. And I think it just really, it sets you up on a foundation of complete inauthenticity where none of your humanity is really present. And to be honest, even recently, some of the stuff that I see circulated in the polarity spaces, I think is really disempowering to women because
Yeah.
it's teaching them that they have to be soft
And
and
submissive
sweet
and
all the time. Yeah. And to be honest, like if you look at any, you know, ancient matriarchal culture, or even matriarchal cultures that exist around the world, like women's power is revered, like
100%.
strong,
Cleopatra, you know.
fierce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that is the energy of the goddess as well. It's not just like being, you know, gushy all the time. You can also be strong, and you can also lead in your relationship as well. I think I think a lot of that stuff is kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think that advice, just as like a one size fits all approach, isn't super helpful.
No, not at all. Totally agree. So what is a red flag and a green flag to finish us off for rapid fire?
I think a red flag is not knowing where you stand with someone. And that could be because of them, but that could also be because of what's going on internally for you, right? And having that kind of that ambiguity or that vagueness and some of the anxiety that comes with that. And sometimes that's confused for butterflies for a lot of women.
100%. Yeah.
Definitely was for me for many years of my history. And then a green flag, I would say, is I guess like the opposite, like feeling like you know where you stand. You might not know exactly where everything's going in the future, but feeling a sense of peace, feeling a sense of being able to be yourself, feeling like that person is bringing out the best qualities in you.
Yeah. Amazing. And I can so see you have that relationship now with Tristan. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Good. So I want to wind back the clock. So how long ago were you single and navigating the dating scene?
Well, Tristan and I met when I was 25. I just turned 25. And so prior to that, I was sort of in and out of different relationships, different dynamics, different situationships, quite a lot of those.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like that's quite a young age, 25, by, I guess, most people's perceptions. But I grew up very fast. I mean, I moved away from home when I was 18, and I was always kind of like an old soul, like doing, you know, like adult things when I was quite young. And so there was a lot of ground that was covered in those
early days.
years.
So what did your like dating life look like? What were the patterns you were facing? What were really like the hurdles that you had to get through to then call in like your person?
Yeah, well, when I was 22, I was at rock bottom. I ended up in therapy. It was like the last kind of resort for me. I really didn't want to go to therapy. I didn't know about any of the things I know about now, self-help and different therapies. And I basically was in a very dark place. I didn't really want to stick around. And so I was like, I better go to therapy because, you know, this is not good. So I went, and turns out I'd been walking around with PTSD for most of my life, undiagnosed. And that kind of made a lot of sense based on the patterns I was ending up in. And, you know, with things like addictions, like no particular one thing, but just anything that was kind of harmful, you know, addicted to making my body look a certain way, getting my weight down, and with men as well. When I moved away from home when I was 18, I moved across the other side of the country to Sydney. I was all on my own. And the first kind of situationship that I ended up in was with a much older man. He was dealing drugs, which I didn't know at the beginning. And then I sort of found out later. And it was just a very toxic dynamic with a huge power imbalance. And so I was, like I said, like quite avoidant. And so I was just living in denial about that. And I was just going down a very dark path. Then after this, after I left that relationship, but before I'd done any work on myself or got to therapy, I ended up in another relationship with like a really nice guy. But then I was kind of repelled by that because I didn't know what to do with someone who like really worshipped me in that way. And so I sabotaged that, and then he hurt me and I hurt him, and you know, all of this and many other situations that I ended up in between. You know, that's what was going on for me. I didn't really love myself, and that was really being reflected in pretty much every corner of my life.
You said an amazing quote one time. You said the people you are dating are a reflection of how you feel inside. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, this like literally explains my whole, you know, career on the dating scene. Because it's like when we are calling in these people who do worship us and who do, you know, think the best of us, like if you don't have the self-worth to receive that, you're going to like be repulsed by it and repel it. And then you're constantly going to be calling in those people who are just reflecting low self-worth time and time again. So were there sort of pattern cycles that you could see really coming out? Was it kind of like the same man dressed in different skin suits?
Well, I think it was like my same wound was then just being projected onto different people, no matter what they were doing. And so after I actually, you know, did this therapy on myself, and before I then moved across to England, which is where I met Tristan, I actually, just before I was moving, about 8 months before, met this guy who was like really amazing. He was he was like fun, and he was kind. He also, I don't want to like say, I don't know how to say that. He wasn't like a little pussy, you know, like like I felt a respect for him. I felt attraction to him. And he was also like a really safe space for me. And so that was really new to me, but I wasn't like pushing it away as much because I'd been doing this work on myself and looking at worth. And that was actually one of the big things that I worked through in therapy was daddy issues, and understanding what it is that I wanted in a person, and actually realizing some of the things I thought I wanted weren't what I wanted. Like it was a different version of that I wanted. And I still have a photo of the like easel with the big piece of butcher's paper and marker with all the things that we wrote. It's the first photo on my camera roll. And cool. It's literally a description of the man I'm married to now. But going back to this guy, he was really amazing. He was, you know, we were falling in love. And then I had this plan to move to London, and maybe what part of me would have done was been like, well, now I shouldn't go because, you know, I'm falling in love with you.
Yeah.
And he was actually an Australian police officer. So there was no chance he could ever move overseas if we wanted to do that, because you know, you can't transport that career to like another place in the world. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I love myself and I love this person, but I'm going to love myself first. And so I left and I moved overseas.
Yeah. So how, because a lot of people who, you know, friends, family would be looking at you during that time and be like, what are you doing? Like, this is the perfect relationship. Why are you leaving? Did that happen for you? And like, what was your kind of response?
I was also saying that to myself. I remember in the airport going to fly the very, very long flight to the UK. I had this hoodie on. I had it over my head. I was crying in the airport, and I think I cried the entire flight. You know, I was devastated, but it was kind of like, have you guys heard that real audio that's like, I gotta put me first. I gotta put me first. It was like that was the stronger voice. Yeah. And so I went, and you know, it wasn't like I just went and I was like, I know this is the right choice. You know, I was crying on that plane. I was texting him about when I first got to the UK. I was wondering, you know, I'd have days where I felt amazing. I was like strutting in London with this, you know, my boots and being like, oh my God, like Sex in the City moment. Yeah. And then the next day I would be like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, have I made a mistake? And I think it's really important to like give yourself grace in those moments when you don't feel so graceful. And then I just decided like, okay, I've got to like put this behind me, you know, and heal and move on and create space in my life. I didn't really want a new relationship because I thought this is going to be my like
Free
healthy
time. Yeah.
girl single era, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like healing,
Mm.
I'm loving myself. I'm going to just like go on dates with all these hot English guys with like amazing
Oh
accents
my
and
God, the
amazing
accents.
manners. Yeah, and like the chivalry, oh my goodness,
Yes.
people just always opening the door for you, like
Oh my
Aussie
God.
guys, like see you later, babe.
Mhm.
So I was kind of like in heartbreak, but also in so much hope and
Yeah.
so much possibility. And then, as that cliche goes, it's like when you're not looking for
I
it,
know.
there
It
it
just
is. It's so annoying. I wish the story was different, but
yeah.
you know, about 4 months later or something like that, I accidentally swiped on someone on Bumble. I was using Bumble to like meet people, to like
Make
also get
plans
connected
and
to new
yeah.
friends, and then also just to like go for dinners and just have fun, you know, and not
Mm.
have any attachment to it. And I accidentally swiped on this guy and I didn't think his photos are very good, but he asked for my number and I must have given it. I don't really like remember giving my number. And then a week or so later, I get this WhatsApp message and I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
And it was Tristan. And I didn't really think I wanted to go on a date because I was like, you know, this is my single girl era and I just want to, you know, have fun. But he sent this really nice message and he was sort of making an effort. Like, I want to take you for lunch in the day, not like a drink at 10 p.m. at night, you know. Whereabouts do you live? What food do you eat? I'll come to you. I'll choose somewhere
Mm.
beautiful near where you live. So I was like, oh, you know, I have this history of like being repelled by nice guys. Maybe I should just try something
Yeah.
like
See
different
what's
because what
different.
I was doing wasn't really working out in the past. So I was like, I was in this mindset of like, I'm going to try things that I haven't tried before and just give myself the opportunity to experience something different. And
Mm.
so luckily I went on the date and about a year and a half later, we were married.
Oh, that is the best story ever. But this is just what like fate is just so freaking incredible. Like it's like if you hadn't have swiped on Bumble, if you hadn't have responded to the message, like all these sliding door moments that literally shape our whole life. Like it's so I could just listen to the rest of my life how people met stories and I would be content. Like it's the
Yeah.
best. So I want to wind back a little bit, Amy, and talk about like what were the tools that you used when you were kind of like at your rock bottom? You know, you said you went to therapy. What were the tools that you started to stumble across to then build your self-worth and your confidence in dating and calling Tristan, obviously?
Yeah. So therapy was, excuse me, therapy was super helpful for me. I was literally at rock bottom. So just having a space to like basically keep me like alive each week. That was the energy of what was going on, was really helpful. And then my therapist actually like told me at some point, she's like, you're ready to actually finish therapy. You can always come back, but like it's time for you to go out and like put into
The real
place
world.
all the things you've been learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I, you know, finished my therapy. I was doing better. I was treating myself better. I was asking myself every single day this one question of like, what would I do if I loved myself? And so that was
Mm.
like, I was asking myself that when I would make my breakfast. What would I eat if I loved myself and didn't want to, you know, starve myself or, you know, hate myself in that way? How would I work out? Like, what friendships would I actually be putting my energy into?
Mm.
Um, and I was doing like some mindset work. What I found was that I wanted to go deeper and I was feeling like, I don't know, it was like the first spark of my spirituality was
Yeah.
coming back online. And so I started, you know, exploring more of that stuff, manifestation. But the interesting story, I don't know if you've heard me share about this, but after I met Tristan, about 6 months, so I'm in the UK now. I was getting more into like health and mindset and all this stuff. My PTSD actually reemerged and I had flashbacks of sexual abuse when I was a girl. And so that was actually the root cause of my PTSD, that we didn't get to that in therapy. It didn't present itself. I remembered, and I started like looking into why that might have happened. And what I was reading was that apparently sometimes when you have repressed memories and PTSD, when you finally meet a really safe adult who can hold space for you and unconditional love, sometimes those memories come back so that you can deal with them. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it was 6 months after I was into this relationship. So because I then knew, okay, this is actually the root of all these other things that seem unrelated to my sexuality and to my body, I started exploring more somatic practices. So I started getting into rebirthing breath work. I started like exploring sexology and the somatic memory of my body. And, eventually I ended up training in all those modalities because they just completely helped me heal and change my life.
And it's so funny. We think it's in the mind, but it's in our body, and it's like everything is stored there. And it's so, I was going to bring up the same point. As you said, it's like once we find that stable relationship, our body and our mind has a chance to be like, oh, okay, I can heal now. Like I can really go to those deep levels. And I actually had tears in my eyes because I'm going through a similar thing at the moment where, sexual traumas and everything from my past are like coming out now that I've got the safe space to do it. So I completely resonate with you. And I really look up to you in the way that you've moved through all of that and now you're just living your best and most magnetic life. So thank you for sharing. And like, it's crazy. Like so many people in my field, in my circles, they're all moving through similar stuff. And I think, it's amazing, but it's also super heavy work. So if you're going through it, just hats off to you guys.
Absolutely.
So do you have any sort of tools for anyone who is going through obviously breath work and somatic work, but is there anything that maybe on a mindset level, if people don't have access to those tools, that would be really helpful for someone going through that?
Well, I mean, I would say if you have trauma, I would veer away from mouth breathing, like the deeper mouth breathing modalities. This is personally why I practice rebirthing breathwork, because like if you're totally new to breathwork, rebirthing breathwork is breathwork through the nose. And then most other forms of very popular breathwork are typically through the mouth. The reason that I'm saying this is because if you have deep trauma, breathing through your mouth is activating your fight or flight response in your body, and your body probably doesn't need to be in fight or flight when you're trying to heal from something like that put you into fight or flight, right? Some people can find it helpful maybe in like very small doses, but if you're doing that all the time, like you're putting your body under stress when your body actually needs to be in a calm state to heal. So nose breathing, definitely, if you have really deep trauma, or even you're just feeling very stressed in your life, feeling like toxic stress, you want to be doing anything to calm yourself. I would also say like this isn't a healing modality, but it kind of is. Like the relationships around you and how you receive love from people is really, I think, like the nutrient to your healing. So, healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in brave spaces with brave people, community, people who love you. And so, if you don't have a partner, like there's so many other ways that we receive love, and being around people who are conducive to your healing is what's going to help you to heal. Just like if you have a plant that's growing in a pot that's full of poison, and you're yelling at it and, cutting it every day, like it's not going to grow. So as much as, all of these healing methods that I can tell you about are powerful, like if that is not congruent, I really don't know how effective breath work and these things are going to be, and if you don't have those people around you, because like for me, when I was in my therapy, I didn't have anyone. I had been through a breakup and lost all my friends because they were his friends, right? And so I was healing in isolation, and it was very, very lonely. But I want you to know, if that's you, that you can go out and you can create that community. You can set that intention like you would with any other goal, right? You set the intention of like, who are the kinds of people that I want in my life? How would I find them? Where would I go? What situations should I put myself in? Go to events on your own, go do yoga and like reach out to the person next to you and say, do you want to go for a coffee? Or, even on Instagram, I've met so many amazing people on Instagram. And so don't discount the power that other people have in your healing process, because they help you to create it too.
100%. And comes back to that point, like having that safe environment so you can go to the depths and have that support network. One of my favorite quotes, I think it was on a Gabor Mate podcast. It was, if you want to find love, do what you love. And it's literally that simple. If you want to find friends, do what you love. If you want to find actual love, do what you love. So often we're sitting at home on the couch being like, where are my friends? Where's my partner? And it's like, get out there, do your thing. You're tenfolding your chances of meeting someone.
Yeah, definitely.
So I really want to talk about how we can build self-worth and build confidence. You are the queen of confidence. How can we build self-worth and confidence in dating, in relationships, especially if, as you said, we were at that rock bottom place?
I think any kind of like healing or mindset work is a great start, right? Because you're the person who's creating everything in your life to some extent. And so the more healed and true that you really are, not the version of you that you created or you created to protect yourself, the more like confident you're going to feel, because you're not living a lie. You're not living a constructed, carefully curated role that you created to stay safe. So getting clear on that. One of the like really simple, almost annoyingly simple things you can do is getting clear on your values. Like a lot of people talk about this, but that's because it works. It's effective. So
simple.
My throat sometimes gets funny when I'm like talking about my old trauma, because it was like all to do with that, right? So,
I remember you saying, sorry, I've like reneged this trauma. Oh, God.
So, getting clear on your values. Like, what are your values now? I think this is a valuable thing to do regularly, because our values change. What was important to you when you were, more unconscious and not aware of, your true self, or not doing any work, is probably going to be different to your values as you start to move through that. It's one of the really important pieces when it comes to confidence, because to feel confident is not to be bulletproof or not to be fearless. It's not to be perfect. To feel confident is to be able to face your fears and know that you've got yourself. Now, if you're living true to your values, what's important to you, there are going to be tough times as well. You might have to have hard conversations with people. You might have to face your fears, take risks, like uncomfortable things. But if you can rest on that bedrock of like, I'm true to me and I'm doing this because I'm deeply connected to why I'm doing this, you have more confidence and you have more resilience when facing your fears. And when you face your fears, especially fears that are aligned to what you want, you create more and more confidence, right? Confidence is created through fear. So don't try and be fearless before you make a move. Get clear on, why am I making that move? Make that little move again and again, increase, rinse, repeat, keep exposing yourself in safe, manageable doses to that thing. And then on the other side, you're manifesting what it is that you actually want, and it's aligned with who you are. And that feels really, really like confidence evoking when you lay your head on the pillow at night and you're like, you know what? I'm not perfect, but my life is true to what I want it to be. I'm making those moves. I'm scared as fuck, but I'm still doing A, B, and C. And like, I'm proud of myself for that. That's truly all confidence really is.
So good. I love, like, you just like get it and riff. That was the best. I was like, if I had a mic, well, I do. I'm not going to drop this. That was amazing. And interesting what you said about values as well, because it's like when we're clear on our own values, it makes us so much easier to call in a partner, I feel, because we actually know what we're calling in. And it's almost like there are non-negotiables. Like, why call in someone who doesn't have similar aligned values to you as well? So
Yeah.
love that. So I've heard you call yourself the queen of games when it came to dating back in the day. So for someone who feels like, do I play the games? Do I not play the games? You know, do you have any tips for them sort of moving away from that and stepping into just breathing and authenticity?
Yeah, well, I think people also play games because games are fun, right? Like not, like if you think of any game that you play, like a card game, a board game, like there's some entertainment, and there's some tension, and it's like, oh, like, am I going to win, right? But I think the issue with applying that to authentic soulmate love is that when you're playing games, like you're holding your cards to your chest, you're maybe manipulating, you're bluffing, you're your mind is so consumed by like, what do I need to do in order to get this result, that you're not actually there being present with all your like little quirks. And if you think about it, right, like imagine going for coffee with like a new friend and they're just like, the way they're talking to you sounds like they've rehearsed it. It might still sound normal, but you're not going to have that same like felt connection with that person, versus like, say you go for coffee and like you say something funny and they snort and they like all their coffee goes everywhere and you're like cracking up. Like, that's not a moment that can be planned. That's just an authentic moment. And our life and our intimacy with anyone is created in small sensory moments. And when you're in your head thinking about, I should do this, I shouldn't do this, I got to wait for that, I better not say that, you're not present in your senses. You're missing out on your life, and you're probably going to miss out on the relationship that's meant for you because you're busy playing a performance for someone. 100%. And they don't get to really feel all those little random things about you that are super lovable. I sometimes think about the things that I love about my husband and my friends, and it's just the most random things. They'd probably be like, what the fuck, Amy? Like the way that my friend scrunches her nose when she says something, or like how my other friend like has this ridiculous laugh. And even with my partner, just silly little things he does. Like when we're running late, he'll start cutting his toenails, and I'm like, you are ridiculous, and I fucking adore you. And if we're trying to be perfect by playing this perfect game, like nobody gets to feel that from you and love that about you.
That is so beautiful. Yeah. And you never really give anyone a chance to just get to know the real you. I feel like a lot of people, well, maybe I'm speaking for them, but people who are sort of like recovering people pleasers and perfectionists, like the dating scene is a hard place because it's like we're trying to construct the perfect version of self to be liked and received from the other person. But it was funny, as soon as I started just being real with myself, real with my desires, that's when I called in my partner. And I'm like, okay, that was the missing piece, really. So yeah, I think that's so important.
Yeah. And that's where the patience comes in, right? Because
100%.
Sometimes that might happen quite fast for you. You're working on yourself, and then like you meet someone and maybe you're still healing and they help you to heal as well. But sometimes it might take longer. Like I have girlfriends who have been healing for a long time, and they've really felt like meeting someone is a struggle for them. And then years and years later, they meet the most incredible person that's like just their person, like two puzzle pieces that fit together, and it happens fast. And they come back and they're like, oh, Ames, I'm so glad you kept telling me to like be patient and keep trusting and keep working on myself. It's not lost time working on yourself and waiting for the right person. That time is going, whether you're with the right person or choosing to be consciously alone and working on yourself, right? Like you're going to be 38 or 50, whatever age, no matter what. And so what I would say to anyone is like, be patient and don't settle. you know, don't
Yes.
settle for something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And it's such a hard time of year because it's like everyone's getting engaged and married and like, you know, having
Yeah.
babies and stuff. And it's like it brings this like real rushed or like, am I doing something wrong? But it's that patience piece and the not settling piece is just so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I was going to ask to close, what's the one piece of dating advice? But I think you nailed it. It's like, it's patience, don't settle, just, you know, be your authentic self. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
one more
yeah.
thing.
Go for it.
Just so anyone listening, know that you're a fucking snack. Like you are
I love it.
the prize. Even if you're imperfect, which we all are, even if you're healing, even if you feel like a hot mess, like you're still worthy of love. And so don't settle for these half-assed efforts from people. You know, if you're someone who gives your all and you're loyal and you're generous and like you're ride or die with your people, like you deserve to have that energy match. So please, please, please just like give yourself love and compassion and know that like you're already whole.
That's beautiful. I really wanted this podcast to be like expansive for anyone listening to know what's possible, and that just sums it up perfectly. So to finish, how can people connect with you, Amy? How can they get in your world, in your work? Tell us all the things.
Yeah. So my Instagram is This Is Amy Rushworth. You can come to my website, amyrushworth.com, or my podcast, The Amy Rushworth Show. Everything is just my name, basically.
Yeah.
So
Super easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the course will be closed by the time this episode is coming out, but keep an eye out on my course, Pleasure Empress, which is a sensuality and self-love program for women. And it includes many of the modalities and the healing that we've spoken about here today. And it's amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
I highly recommend binging on your podcast. I've just, been binging. Absolutely love it. And your Instagram as well. There's so much like content and goodness going out there. So definitely check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and just sharing your wisdom with us. It was such a pleasure talking with you. And to everyone who's tuning in, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Yay. All right, let me press stop. I'm so sorry. I was feeling so off before. So